All right, hello everybody, and welcome to the second to last preview for the NFL draft. We are about a month and a half away. The UFL season begins in about a week and a half, so we have this week and then next week to talk about draft prospects. So before diving into it, I want to quickly say if you are new, subscribe, greatly appreciated. Leave a like and comment down below your thoughts. You know the whole drill. So to begin, the number one ranked linebacker, the 27th overall ranked prospect, Jahad Campbell out of Alabama, 6'3", 245, and he's a pretty damn good player. Do not to be surprised. Alabama typically likes to produce really damn good linebackers, and he is definitely one of them. For a 4.52 40-yard dash, didn't do any lifting or a lot of the other drills, but he did the 40 and he did his broad jump, which was 10.7, pretty damn solid. And he's going to be a really damn good linebacker and a really good starting linebacker for some team. Probably initially, like the first half of the season, you might want him to get some spot reps during the year, but eventually he will become an everyday and every down linebacker for you pretty quickly, all things considered. And again, just really, really solid, really put in the effort and put in the work in Alabama, despite the season that despite their season not going to plan. He definitely was not the reason behind the disappointment of the season. He played really well. He did his job, and just overall really versatile, can play in a multiple different ways, can play off the edge, can play as an interior linebacker, really knows how to use his bodies in unique ways. He has the length, he has the strength, he has a lot good pursuit, plays really well, and there's a reason he's a number one ranked class for a reason. Again, if he for the first 3 weeks of the season, if you give him some spot snaps here and there, by week 4 and week 5, he will be an every snap linebacker for you most likely, or at least by the end of the season, he'll be one of your top two linebackers. Yeah, just an overall really, really damn good player that you cannot go wrong with picking. Someone that I feel like Miami could pick at 13, but again, he's gonna go in the first round in no matter in what spot. The next linebacker we'll talk about is going to be Chris Paul out of Ole Miss, 6'1", 235, and another linebacker where he is solid. Definitely not going to be to the level that Campbell is, but still a solid linebacker nonetheless. The fifth ranked linebacker in this class, the 119th ranked prospect overall, according to ESPN. And he did a pretty solid showing at the combine, 4.63 40, a 1.62 10-yard split, and a 9.9 broad jump. Definitely lacks a little bit of the athleticism that Campbell has, but for a potential late day 2 pick, maybe early day 3 pick, he's a pretty damn solid linebacker to get for a depth option. I don't expect him to be an elite level starter anytime soon, but at some point he can be a really good linebacker too for a team that runs 4 linebackers, or at least 2 interior linebackers. He plays the position well, just not to the same level as others, and thus is a good depth option for a team looking for just a simple, hey, for a simple spot snap linebacker in the later portion of the draft. Chris Paul, definitely a damn good option for that. He spent some time in Arkansas to begin his collegiate career. He spent last season at Ole Miss, and throughout both of those stops, he played pretty well. But definitely a player where you shouldn't draft him with the expectation of being a sleeper linebacker to be the next Fred Warner or maybe even Zach Bond. But to be fair, Zach Bond was also a fifth round pick, so he might be the next Zach Bond. I think if he goes to the right system and the right scheme, he will be a pretty damn solid linebacker and a type of linebacker that could lead a team in tackles, similar to like a Jerome Baker or Jordan Brooks. But still a really solid player overall. Next up, we're talking about a national champion, whether the 6th linebacker, 126th prospect overall, Cody Simon out of Ohio State, 6'2", 235. He did not get an invitation to the combine, but he is still a pretty solid player. Was a good part of that Ohio State team that won the national championship. But similar to Chris Paul, it is more so of a late day 2, early day 3 depth option for a team to get some spot snaps at linebacker and be able to be able to put in the work and not make too many mistakes. Definitely feel like the upside for Cody Simon is not where it's at for Chris Paul. But still, if you can become a reliable linebacker 3 for a team, or even linebacker 2 at some point, you'll definitely take it. That probably does depend a little bit more on the scheme and the system. But most of the NFL defenses do run a pretty solid system, and especially if you go to a team like Minnesota or San Francisco, he's going to fit in just fine with the type of defense that they like to run and the type of players that they like to bring in. Again, I think he'd be fine overall. Still a solid player. Still again put in work at a Power 5 school, and through that you most likely won't be able to go wrong selecting him, especially considering when you will be selecting him, and that being just early day 3, late day 2, most likely going to be able to put in the work. So the final linebacker we'll be talking about going to be another Power 5 guy, Kobe King out of Penn State, 6'1", 251. Definitely on the later in the draft type of players, and definitely a more of a prospect type of player, an experimental type of pick. He's a 17th ranked linebacker according to ESPN, 227th prospect overall. And I say experimental and a developmental piece because if he really, really hits his mark of his development and his potential, he's going to be a pretty solid average starting linebacker. But if not, he can be a good special team guy for a team, or just a good depth piece if you want to get him like 20% of the snaps during the season. He'll be able to put in the work for those 20% of the snaps. And again, given the right system, he can definitely explode and become something even better. But you shouldn't be expecting it out of him. But if your team selects him in that late day 3 or mid day 3, late day 3, there's definitely room for improvement there for him to become a viable piece, but just don't fully expect it out of him, at least early on. Definitely could see him being a really solid special teams player in some capacity. He still has a good tackling ability and still able to play well. It's just 251 a little bit on the, I wouldn't say on the smaller side. It's a little bit more hesitatory there. And all things considered, it's the fact that at Penn State, it's not that he didn't play well, it's just that he wasn't a main piece to that defense in the same way that like an Abdul Carter was. But he's still a damn good player, and so again, even if he becomes an elite special teams player, that is a very viable type of role to have for a team, as you've seen with multiple different occasions the past few years, how much of a difference special teams can make. So, with all that being said, thank you all for tuning in, and I'll see you all next week when we discuss finally the secondary draft prospects, as well as next week when we begin the discussion about the UFL season. I'll see you all then. Have yourselves a damn good one. Peace.